In this video, I'll discuss customizing graphs in TotalVet and editing criteria on the reports. One of the reports that a lot of users will be familiar with is the Somatic cell count analysis report. Under the High SEC Cows tab, users can see the proportion of the herd that are high cell count and chronically high cell count at any one milk recording. This data is taken from an autumn block calving herd, and there appears to be an increase in the rate of high cell count cows and chronically high cell count cows towards the end of the summer. Now, one question that users may have is this a true reflection of new infections, or is this actually driven by stale late lactation cows? In order to analyze this further, users can select edit criteria and can choose to limit the report by cows in early to mid lactation. So for example, let's select to limit this report to cows that are less than 200 days in milk. Now, when we look at this report, we can see that the proportion of high cell count cows, this green line, is much flatter. There's a small increase in the rate of high cell count cows towards the end of the summer, but this is actually only driven by a single cow in June. If we double click on the bar, we can see actually this cow was 198 days in milk, so very close to being excluded from this analysis. So from this, we can conclude actually this apparent increase in high cell count cows towards the end of lactation doesn't appear to be driven by new infections, and it might be more likely driven just by stale milkers. Another way to reduce short-term effects on the rolling average is to change the period that the average is defined over. So users can choose to stop using the 3-month rolling averages at the bottom, and actually they might want to change that to rolling 6-month averages. And as you can see, these show now much flatter lines and show a much more consistent rate of high cell count cows on this herd with a general downward trend over the last 2 years. If users wanted to assess this trend in infected cows over a longer period, they could do so by changing the standard criteria pane at the top of the report. For example, we could enter 60 months here to look at the change in high cell count and chronically high cell count cows over the last 5 years. And here we can see there has been a general downward trend in the proportion of infected cows and the proportion of chronically infected cows over these 5 years. Now, for some of these graphs, looking at it over a longer period may make the graph look quite complicated and quite messy. Series can be removed for ease of analysis by clicking at the top of the report. And here we just see the rolling 6-month averages of high cell count cows and chronically high cell count cows over the defined period. Users can add notes to a specific report by clicking View and Report Notes. This opens up a Report Notes pane over on the right. User could add as a comment, for example, a general downward trend in SEC over the past years. Click OK. Now, when this report is printed or exported as a PDF, users will see the graph as displayed with the notes at the top of the report. Another set of reports that users may be familiar with are the mastitis analysis reports. This graph shows the number of clinical mastitis cases occurring by calendar month over the past 24 months. Cases are further subdivided into dry period origin and lactation period origin cases, and whether they are first cases or recurrence. On the surface, there appear to be more cases of apparent lactation period origin. These are represented by yellow and green bars compared to blue and red. However, in order to dig a little bit deeper, we really need to consider the number of cows eligible for a case of clinical mastitis and calculate the lactation period origin incidence rate. This graph shows the rate of lactation period origin mastitis by month over the past 24 months. The green bars in the background show the number of cows that are eligible for a case of mastitis of lactation period origin. That's between 30 and 305 days in milk and not having had a case of dry period origin mastitis. And the green line shows the proportion of those cows having a case of mastitis in each month. In this graph, there appears to be a little bit of seasonality with peaks in the mastitis rate over the winter of 2019 and 2020. A question that we're often asked is is there a difference in mastitis rates in the heifers compared to the higher parity cows? Now we can answer this question using the edit criteria function in TotalVet. If users hit edit criteria, then they can specify a number of filter criteria in order to limit the data in this graph. In this example, we're going to select lactation number and restrict the analysis only to heifers. In order to make a clear comparison between heifers and older parity cows, users can now view the graphs side by side using the split screen function. Over on the right-hand side, we can specify that we want to look at lactation number greater than 1. Now, if we navigate to the lactation period origin rates graph, hit adjust chart twice at the bottom, this will fit the graph to the new screen. And now we can compare the lactation origin rate of mastitis in heifers on the left compared to older parity cows over on the right. Users can also customize the axes, so they can change the left and the right axes to be the same in both charts. This allows much easier comparison between heifers and cows. On the right-hand side, we can see that the pattern is still very seasonal. We've got a spike in mastitis rate of lactation period origin in the winter of 2019 and the winter of 2020. Over on the left-hand side, we've still got those spikes in winter, but we've also got a spike in heifers occurring during the late summer in July, August, and September. So we can see we've got a slightly different pattern of lactation period origin mastitis in heifers than we have with our cows.